There's an article by Nicole Flateau that just blew my socks off. I had no idea this was going on in America. The Lee Supermax facility in South Carolina is a prison for the mentally disabled, where they basically do systemic torture of the inmates. Now, again, my reaction to this was, I know we could be harsh in the U.S. prisons. I've seen that show Lock Up on MSNBC before, but I didn't know there was like systemic torture going on. Listen to this stuff. It's beyond gruesome, so I'm actually going to tell you in advance. I'm warning you. If you have a weak stomach, you probably shouldn't listen. Jerome Laudman is a schizophrenic, intellectually disabled inmate. He was placed in solitary confinement, even though he was never aggressive or threatening, and it's actually illegal to put a mentally disabled person in solitary confinement. He was sprayed with chemicals. He was hit by officers repeatedly. He was confined naked in his cell for days. He stopped eating and stopped taking his medication. He was sick. Officers did nothing to help him. Quote, a week later, he was found laying in his own feces with 15 to 20 trays of molding food in his cell, vomiting. Nurses and an officer refused to go in there to help him to retrieve his body and take him somewhere in order to get medical attention. When 2 inmates were eventually sent to remove him, they made the inmates do it. He was transferred unconscious to a hospital where he died of a heart attack soon thereafter. Now, they had a court hearing not only about this, but about other things that were similar that happened as well. In the hearing, we learned so much about the prison. Quote, other plaintiffs in the case were held naked in restraint chairs for hours at a time without treatment of their injuries, left to urinate in place, and forced to stay in a painful crucifix position for hours. In one instance, blood pooled beneath an inmate held in a restraint. In another, an inmate's intestine was protruding from his abdomen as officers tightened restraints surrounding the wound. One inmate was restrained with his arms in a twisted position, soaked in water, and then left outside on a December night. That can lead to hypothermia and death. This is flat-out torture. Suicidal inmates weren't checked on, leading to many deaths. People just committed suicide. The judge said he never saw such horrible misuse of pepper spray in his life. In other words, whenever, somebody who was a prison guard thought, this guy's acting up to one degree or another, spray his ass. Just spray people whenever you want, for whatever reason whatsoever. There's no, repercussion. The premises was extremely cold all the time. It was filled with blood and feces smeared on the walls. And the Supreme Court, remember, ruled it unconstitutional to leave mentally ill inmates in solitary confinement. But this prison just totally ignored that. One man was in solitary confinement for 2,565 consecutive days. And the worst part of all, nothing has been done about this until now, and it's been going on since 1999. And I should say the state is going to likely to appeal the ruling also. So they're still trying to say, well, we're not responsible for this. Now realize something, guys. Tax dollars are funding this. Probably mostly state tax dollars, but probably some federal tax dollars also. I mean, is this how we want our hard-earned taxpayer dollars to be spent? Now understand, I'm no uber lib when it comes to criminal justice. In fact, I've gotten slammed by liberals because of my position on criminal justice. I did a story where the top European court ruled that it's unconstitutional to do life in prison because that's cruel. So there's no death penalty and there's no life in prison. So no matter what, you have the chance of getting out. I should say they banned life in prison without the possibility of parole. That's what they banned. And I was against that. I am, because I think there's some people that they've done things that are so horrendous, so disgusting that they deserve to never get out of prison, okay? So I said that liberals came after me, right? But I understand that there needs to be, in some cases, you should do 100% rehabilitation for a criminal and no punishment. In other cases, it's a 50-50 kind of thing. You should 50% rehabilitate them and also give them 50% punishment. And in some cases, I get it. You do 100% punishment. There's some crimes that are enough that merit that this person is too much of a risk to ever get out in society. But for something like this, We have become the criminals. It's the guards that are the criminals. What makes the guards any better than somebody who locks up somebody in their basement and tortures them? Seriously, what does? Nothing does. And in fact, it's even worse because it's fucking state sanctioned in this case. And nobody's blowing the whistle. From 1999, it was going on until now, and a judge is saying this is ridiculous, we gotta change it, and the state is still saying, no, we don't want to change it. We can't become the monster that we're trying to avoid, because then we're no better than the fucking monster. This stuff is obvious, man. It's easy. But we live in a country where we're so fucking distracted by reality TV and what's going on in our personal lives and this and that, that some of the most egregious wrongs that we do, nobody has anything to say about it. Whether it's our drone strikes killing innocent civilians in Pakistan and Yemen and Somalia, they have a 98% failure rate, which means we're mostly killing civilians. Whether it's the war in Iraq killing 100,000 innocent Iraqi civilians, and it was a country that didn't attack us and we invaded, all the reasons we said we went there weren't true and they were wrong and we're just doing it to be an imperialist and get their natural resources. But we don't critique the people in power strong enough. We don't try to enact change strong enough. We're all too apathetic. I don't want to sit idly by while our government does all these things that are... I mean, this is some evil fucking shit. Again, I want to be clear. I think very few people in the world are legitimately evil, where they actually have bad intentions. Most of the time, it's like stupidity that looks like it's evil, or it's corruption that looks like evil, or stupidity and corruption that looks like it's evil. But for something like this, this is evil. If you're one of those guards that tortures and does all the things I just read through, you're a sick motherfucker. You should be locked up. You're the one that's the real criminal.